So, have you ever wondered how that app on your phone goes from just a simple idea to the finished product you use every single day? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that entire journey from a concept sketched on a napkin all the way to its final farewell. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to follow the life of an application from start to finish, phase by phase. This will really help us understand the secret sauce behind building great software. Okay, first things first, before we dive into the phases, let's get on the same page. What exactly is Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM, as you'll often hear it called? Now, this is the really important part. ALM isn't just one single thing you do. Think of it more like a recipe for the whole project. It's a complete system that brings together the people, the processes, and the tools you need to manage an app's entire life. Honestly, this structured approach is what separates the successful projects from the ones that just descend into chaos. You can pretty much break this whole process down into these 5 core phases. Each one builds directly on the one before it, which creates this really logical flow from idea to finished product. So let's jump into that first one. Our journey starts right here, with what is arguably the most critical phase of all, requirements. This is the bedrock of the entire project. It's where you lay all the groundwork for success before anyone writes a single line of code. You know, this phase is really all about deep listening. It's like being a detective. You're out there interviewing people, trying to understand their pain points, and then translating all of that into a very clear set of goals for the app. And check this out. These are the key jobs here. It's not enough to just gather up a wish list. You have to really analyze those needs, document everything clearly, and, this is crucial, you have to keep tracking them to make sure the project doesn't drift off course later. Okay, so our requirements are locked in. We know what we need to build. Now, we move on to the design phase, where we start to figure out how we're going to build it. This is where the vision starts to become a blueprint. Seriously, this is exactly like an architect creating a detailed blueprint for a house before the construction crew shows up. We're mapping out how every single piece, from the database in the back to the buttons the user clicks, will all fit together and work as one. And when we say detailed, we mean detailed. This phase covers the whole shebang. We're talking about the high-level system architecture, the database design, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of what the user interface is going to look and feel like. All right, now we get to the part that most people think of when you say software creation, the actual coding, the development. And yeah, it's pretty much what it sounds like. Those detailed design blueprints get handed over to the developers, and they get to work writing the code that will bring this whole application to life. But you know, modern development is so much more than just typing. It's about working smart. That's where you see practices like version control, which is a lifesaver for managing changes to code over time. And then there's continuous integration, which automatically pulls everyone's work together and tests it to find problems super early. So the code is written, the application is built, but does it actually work? Is it reliable? Is it ready for the real world? Well, that's what we find out in the all-important testing phase. Look, the goal here couldn't be simpler, but it's absolutely vital. Find and fix the bugs before your users do. This whole phase is about making sure the final product is stable, reliable, and that it actually delivers on all the promises we made way back in the requirements phase. And testing isn't just one big step. It's more like a series of safety nets. You start small by testing the tiniest individual pieces of code. Then you test how they work together. Then you test the whole system. And finally, you get real users to try it out just to make sure it meets their needs. Okay, we're on the home stretch. Time for the final phase of the initial cycle, deployment and maintenance. This is it. This is when the application finally goes live and gets into the hands of real users. Yeah, this is the big moment, launch day. The application gets deployed and real people start using it. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, the launch is just the beginning of this phase. This is so important to remember. An app's life continues long after it launches. A whole new chapter begins. You're constantly providing support, fixing bugs, improving performance, and adding new features based on what your users are telling you. This phase even includes planning for the day the application is eventually retired. So, to wrap it all up, ALM provides that structured, predictable framework for what can often be a really complex and chaotic process. It's really the difference between a project that's well managed and one that's a potential disaster waiting to happen. And that's our complete tour of the application lifecycle management process. Now that you've seen all the stages from start to finish, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Which one of these phases do you think is the most likely to fail?